Welcome to Docker Swarm. These are the topics we are going to talk about. We'll talk about what is Docker Swarm, and we'll also talk about the concept of a node. Node is a Docker machine that is participating in a Docker Swarm. We'll talk about the visualizer, Docker Swarm visualizer, and we'll talk about the Docker Swarm service, and we'll also talk about how we can scale up and scale down Docker service. What is a Docker Swarm? Docker Swarm is a cluster of Docker machines. These Docker machines are referred to as nodes in a swarm. And you are going to deploy services into these Docker nodes, Docker engines or nodes. Docker provides Docker Swarm APIs and commands that you can use to manage Docker Swarm nodes. For example, you can add or remove nodes from or to you can add a node to a swarm, or you can remove a node from a swarm. And you can also deploy services, and you can also perform orchestration of these services across the swarm. You can start a swarm by initializing a swarm. You're going to actually say, for example, Docker swarm init, and then you are going to actually start the swarm. And then you can join that swarm. Basically, by joining a particular node into a swarm, you're actually increasing number of nodes participating in that swarm. When you're running Docker without using swarm mode, we have used the container, and container is basically performing some functionality. However, if you're running a Docker in swarm mode, you are going to actually, the unit of things that are going to run is in the form of services. And we're going to actually talk about the concept services in a few minutes. You can run Docker services and standalone containers on the same Docker instances. So these are the set of Docker Swarm features. Cluster management. Basically, you can create a swarm, and that is a cluster of Docker Swarm nodes. Decentralized design. Things will be, in fact, the manager and worker nodes are communicating among themselves to set the current state correctly. Declarative service model. So you can start a service, and basically a service is the instances of the tasks that are being run on nodes. Scaling, you can scaling up and scaling down a service. So for example, you can set the number of tasks that are being running on a swarm to maybe 5, and you can scale it down to 3 and things like that. And Docker swarm will actually automatically redistribute the tasks among the nodes in that swarm. Desired state reconciliation. So basically, the Docker will actually manage the right state among themselves. Multi-host networking, service discovery, load balancing. Load balancing is basically when a service is requested, the Docker swarm will figure out which one is in the nodes will actually handle the request. Secure by default, and a rolling update. So these are the set of features, and you can actually play around most of these features in the lab. So what is a node? Node is an instance of Docker engine participating in a swarm. So swarm is a collection of Docker machines, and each Docker machine in that swarm is considered as a node. You can run multiple, one or more nodes in a single physical computer, which is the case in our lab since we have a single machine. However, in production environment, it's highly likely that these nodes are distributed physically, and they could be actually a physically distributed network, or they could be cloud machines. There are two kinds of nodes, manager node and worker node. And manager node also plays the role of a worker node at the same time. So let's talk about the concept of manager node and worker node in a bit more detail. So to deploy your application to a swarm, you submit a service definition to a manager node. And the manager node then dispatches unit of work. This unit of work is called a task to worker nodes. And manager nodes also perform orchestration and cluster management functions required to maintain the desired state of the swarm. So for example, if you say that the number of tasks for a particular service is supposed to be 5, and the manager node will figure out how many worker nodes out there, and then it will distribute the task to those worker nodes. There could be, in fact, multiple manager nodes, and one of the manager nodes will play the leader role, and that is for conducting these orchestration tasks. A worker node receive and execute tasks dispatched from the manager node. So basically, each worker node has an agent, and his agent will notify the manager node of the current state of its assigned task, so the manager node can figure things out, who's working on what task. And if there is no notification from the agent, and then the manager node that the worker node is probably not up and running, and then it will move the task to some another worker node. Okay, so let's do exercise 1 and exercise 2. Exercise 1, we are going to start 3 Docker machines, and in exercise 2, we're going to actually start the 3 Docker machines, and then in exercise 2, we are going to make one of those Docker machines to be manager node, and then 2 extra nodes, 2 Docker machines are playing the role of worker node, and then we're going to start the swarm. Then we're going to let the worker nodes to join the swarm. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the exercise 1. So here we're going to start the 3 Docker machines. For now, we have, if you say Docker machine ls, we have the default Docker machine, and so we want to create a new Docker machine called the Swarm Manager 1, and then we're going to actually create the Swarm Worker Node 1 and Swarm Worker Node 2 Docker machines. So we're going to actually have 3 Docker machines that we are going to make a swarm out of those 3 Docker machines. Okay. All right, so you're going to actually open one terminal node, and we're going to create and start Swarm Manager 1 Docker machine. So Docker machine create Swarm Manager 1. Once you create the Docker machine, it also runs it. Okay. All right, so Docker machine create Swarm Manager 1. And once it is created, then we want to set the environment variable on this particular terminal. So we're going to say Docker machine env Swarm Manager 1, and then we are going to set the environments. Okay. All right. In the meantime, we're going to actually do the second one in the second terminal. So I'm going to actually open another terminal window, and here we are going to create Docker machine create Swarm Worker 1. Okay, and we are going to have another terminal window, and here we're going to create the Swarm Worker 2. So that is 1.3. Open terminal window number 3, and then create a Swarm Worker 2. So Docker machine create Swarm Worker 2. Okay. All right, so let's see whether the Swarm Manager 1 is created. It's actually still being created. Okay, so once it's created, then we are going to set the environments. Okay. All right, so it's created. So now let's actually say Docker machine env Swarm Manager 1, and we are going to set environment variables. So this client is talking to Swarm Manager 1. So at this point, if you say Docker machine ls, you're going to see, depending on whether the other two worker Docker machines are being created, you're going to actually see, in this case, Swarm Manager 1 is supposed to be active. Okay. All right. So let's actually go to the second one. It's still being created. Okay. All right. And again, we are going to say Docker machine env, and we are going to set the environment variable. Oh, this is not right. So we want to actually set Docker machine env swarm worker 1. Swarm worker 1. Okay. All right. So we are going to set environments talking to swarm worker 1. Okay, now we're gonna go to the third one. Okay, so it's created. So we are going to again Docker machine env swarm worker 2. Okay, and set environment variables for that worker node. Okay, so here, I don't know why it's taking so long. Docker machine let's see whether it's actually it should actually give me for the Docker nodes, and in this case Swarm Manager 1 is active, meaning this is the active Docker machine this client is talking to. This one is Docker machine ls, and in this case Swarm worker 1 is the machine is talking to, so that is the active one. Okay. All right, so we have created 3 Docker machines. Okay, manager 1, worker 1, and worker 2. Okay. All right. For your exercise, you can open terminal number 4, and you can start create the next third Docker machine. That's not a big deal. So we can actually move on to exercise 2. So exercise 2, we are going to actually start the swarm, and then we are going to join this swarm. Okay. So we are going to, you can start the swarm only from manager node. So since we want to actually use a swarm manager 1, the swarm manager 1 as the manager node, we actually go to this terminal window. Okay. And Swarm Manager 1 is active. Okay, so now we want to actually find out the IP address of Swarm Manager, because this IP address is the one that is actually being used when a worker node joined the swarm. Okay, so if you say Docker, you can actually see the IP address is already 101 like here. Okay, but you can just say Docker machine IP Swarm Manager. Okay. Oh, Docker. Oh, it's misspelled. Docker. Okay. Swarm Manager 1. Okay, so IP address is 192.168 and 99 and 101. That is the IP address of Swarm Manager 1 Docker node, which we want to make it as a manager node. Okay. So in order to start a swarm, this is what you are going to say: Docker swarm init, and then you say advertiser address and the IP address of your manager node. Okay, so it's going to be Docker swarm init dash dash advertise address and then IP address. Okay, in this case 192.168.99 and 101. Okay. All right, so this is how you're going to start a swarm. All right, so now it actually gives you an instruction for how to join this swarm with a token that gets generated. Okay, so this is the instruction that you are going to use in the worker nodes to join this swarm. Okay, All right, so now if you say, you can actually use the docker node ls, you can actually list all the nodes in this swarm. We have only a single node, swarm manager 1, playing the role of the manager at this point because we don't have any worker node yet. Okay. All right, so now we're going to actually have worker node 1 and worker node 2 to join this swarm. So we go to this second terminal window. Okay, so this is where the swarm worker 1, the Docker machine is the active Docker machine. Okay, and here you can actually take a look at the some Docker swarm helper. So Docker swarm dash help. Okay, so you can, this is the one, init command is the one that we have used in the manager node to initialize or start the swarm, and join is the command that you can use to join a swarm as a node or as a manager. Okay, so here we're going to actually join a swarm as a node, worker node. Okay, you can get the help screen of the join. So let's actually say Docker swarm and join dash help. Okay, so basically you're going to actually use the listen address and node address and things like that, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to actually use this command, docker join, docker swarm join, and you also have to specify this token and then the address of IP address of the manager node and port number 2333. Okay. All right, so here we're going to say docker swarm join. So let me just go over here. So docker swarm join, and then I need to get the that token value. So I'm going to just copy this one here, and then I have to specify IP address of the manager node and then port number 2377. Okay, like this. So I'm going to just copy this guy, and here, so I'm actually joining the swarm. So now if you say docker node ls, you're going to see, oops, docker node ls only can be executed in the manager node. Okay, so please run this command on a manager node. Promote this node to a manager. So this node is worker node. We have to go to the manager node and say docker. Yeah, so I can just get this command, and now we have two nodes, swarm manager 1 and swarm worker 1. Those are two nodes in this swarm. Okay, so now we're going to actually go to the third. Okay, so basically we're going to actually execute the same command that we did in the worker node. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this command and run this one over here. Okay, all right, so now worker node 2 is the worker node 2 join the swarm. So now if you do list the nodes, you are going to see all these three nodes, swarm manager 1 and swarm the worker 2 and swarm worker 1. So they are all active in the swarm, and swarm manager 1 is playing the role of the manager and is also playing the role of a leader. Okay, so that's basically exercise 2. Okay, all right. Okay, let's move on. The next topic is Docker Swarm Visualizer container. So there is actually the image out there. Somebody actually wrote, and this once you actually run this container, you're going to actually see the nodes in the swarm and also tasks that are being run in the swarm. Okay. All right, so basically Docker Swarm Visualizer visualizes, this is basically GUI front end that shows the Docker machines, meaning the nodes, and the service instances, meaning tasks that are running in the worker node. So in this case, you can see we have 3 nodes, by the way, as I said before, the manager node also played the role of the worker node. So in this case, we have 5 service tasks being running. They are running on 3 different nodes. Okay, 2 in worker node 1 and 2 in worker node 2 and 1 in the worker node, running at the same Docker machine of the manager. Okay. All right, so in exercise 3, we are not going to actually see the task inside, but we're going to actually see the Docker nodes, however. Okay. All right, so in order to do that, you have to actually go to the manager node. You have to run this guy in the manager node. Okay, so make sure that you are in the manager node, the first terminal window. Okay, so just make sure that the Docker machine active, and it should say the Swarm Manager 1. Okay, so that is the node that you want to run this visualizer. So basically all you have to do is just Docker run and interactive mode and daemon, and port number is 8090, and then this is the volume, and then this is the name of the image. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna just copy this guy. Yeah, you can just copy this guy from the lab documentation and run it. Okay, and once you've done that, then you can access the container. So in this case, you have to actually get the IP address of Docker machine, and then you can go to this address. Okay, all right, so let's wait that. It's a web application, by the way. Okay. And once you, okay, so it's done. So basically now I should be able to go this address. Looks like I should, okay, so I'm gonna go over here. Okay. Okay, so now you can see we have a manager node and then we have a worker node. We don't have any task running at this point. Okay, so it's actually visualizer for your Swarm. Okay, all right, so that is basically the end of the exercise. Okay, so I'll let you guys actually do exercise 3, just studying this visualizer. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so let's move on. Now we are going to learn about the concept of Docker Swarm service. So service is a definition of task to execute on the worker nodes. So basically in a Swarm, you are going to start a service. A service is a unit of things that you're going to actually execute in a Swarm. Okay? So when you create a service, you specify which container image to use and which commands to execute inside running containers. And this service can be scaled up and scaled down. All right, so we're going to do exercise 4 and 5. So in exercise 4, we're going to start the service. In exercise 5, we are going to scale up and scale down the service. Okay, and that's pretty much the end of the presentation. So let's do exercise 4. So here we are going to see service command. Okay, so if you say I'm going to go to the command, manager node. So you can say Docker service -- help. Okay, so you can create a new service, and later on we are going to list the services. We can inspect the service. You can see the tasks of a service. Okay. Here, this is the list of services, right? So if you have multiple services running in a Swarm, you can say Docker service ls, and it will display all services running in the Swarm. PS is a list of tasks of a particular service. So here you're going to specify Docker service PS, and then you specify the name of the service. Okay. Remove is removing one or more services from the Swarm. And then scale, you can scale up and scale down, meaning number of tasks that are running for that particular service. And if you want to update the service, you can actually update the service. Okay, so for example, if you create a brand new, if you have make a change on the service, and then if you want to actually redeploy that service, you're gonna actually use the update service. Okay. All right, so that is that. So we are going to create the service. So Docker service create, and if you do the help, basically, you know, the -p-p, this is for publishing port as node port. So this is nothing much. This is same the -p concept when you have port that you want to expose externally. Replicas units. So this is the number of tasks that you want to start with for that service. Update this delay duration. It delay between updates. Okay, so for example, if you started, let's say, 2 replicas of a particular service, the first service will get the first task get created, and in 5 seconds, for example, if you specify 5 seconds, then it will actually wait for 5 seconds to create the next task and things like that. Okay. All right. So we are going to create and run Docker service. Again, you have to do it in Swarm Manager node. So make sure that again you're working in the Manager node. So again, let's make sure Docker machine active, and it should be a Manager 1 node. Okay. All right. So now this is the way you are going to create the Croc Hunter Docker service. So here, Docker service create and replicas 2. So here we want to create 2 tasks for this image. Okay. The name of the service is going to be Croc Hunter, and this is the port binding. Okay. So we're gonna actually use 8080. And update delays 5 seconds. So you know whatever changes will be applied to a swarm with 5 seconds interval. Okay, right? So I'm gonna just copy this guy and start the service. Okay, so service has been started. Okay, now if you take a look at the visualizer, you can see initially these 2 tasks are running. It takes about 5 seconds to actually get this guy to be active, and so in a few, if I refresh this one in a few seconds, we'll actually see those things to be kind of green. Okay. All right, so let's actually wait for that. So let's actually see the list of services. We should have just one because we have created just one single service, right? Okay, so Docker service ls, Docker service ls, and so replicas is 02. So it should actually becoming 1 and 2 and 2.2. Okay, so now it's 2.2. Now if you go over here, you can see both of them, each task of this service is running in this node, and the other one is running in this node, and they actually are running. Okay. All right, so that is that. Now let's take a look at we can list the task of a service. So that is going to be Docker service, and then we say PS, and then you provide the name of the service is Croc Hunter. Okay, so we can see there are 2 instances running. Okay, so the Croc Hunter.1 and Croc Hunter.2. Okay, you can inspect the service. So here you can say Docker service and inspect and Croc Hunter, and give you information about that service. Okay, if you want to actually see the result in a pretty format, then you can say --pretty like this. Okay, so you can see the service the service name is Croc Hunter, and replicas is 2. So there are 2 instances running. Okay, these are published port. Okay. All right, so that is that exercise, and again, we have seen in the visualizer these 2, right? Okay. Okay, so now we can access the service. Okay, now we're actually running only two. If you see this guy, only two nodes are running the task. However, we should be able to access any of these nodes, and the Docker Swarm will actually figure out how to handle that request. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, if you take a look at the Docker machine as what we're going to do is we are going to access this service in each of these nodes, this guy and this guy and this guy. Okay, and so even though this node is not running the task, we still should be able to access this service using any of these IP addresses. Okay. All right, so let's start with the 103 here. So here I'm gonna go over here, and this is going to be 8080. Okay, so we can see it is running. Okay, now we can actually go to the second node as well, and the same thing. Okay, so application can be running, and I can go over here 101. Okay, so basically this is the host name. Yeah, so I can oh, you know what, this host name could be actually kind of indication which is actually running. So let me actually see if I go to 102. Yeah, so this is actually different. You can see it's actually going to the different host. But the thing is that basically when a client accesses this service, regardless which node is running that the task, I mean the service, Docker will handle the request. That's basically what I'm trying to actually demonstrate here. Okay, so that's basically what I just did. Okay. So for your exercise, I want you to choose a web application of your choice. You can use this Spring Boot web application from Docker Hub. This is the one that I have uploaded to the Docker Hub. And then I want you to create a brand new service called the My Web App, and with a replication of 4. Okay. All right, so that is exercise 4. Now, exercise 5, we are going to scale up the service and scale down the service. Okay. Again, you have to do it in the manager node. So here we want to scale it up, meaning we want to increase the number of tasks, number of service instances to be 5, scaled up to be 5. Okay. So here I'm going to say Docker service scale crop hunter, so 5. Okay, so now is the increase to 5. So if you see the visualizer, you can see now we have 5 instances, 5 the task, and this will be in fact the it will take 5 seconds to get the activated. So again, if you say Docker service PS and crop hunter. Okay, oops. Docker's, oh, misspelled the service. Okay, so now, okay, so they are all running status. So now if I see here, yeah, so you can see these are all green at this point. Okay, you can actually increase to 7. So let's say the increase to 7. So I'm actually increasing to 7. Again, you're going to see there are 7 tasks up and running. Okay, and you can scale down, of course. Okay, scale down to let's say 4. Okay, all right. So now we're going to have this guy scale down to 4. Now the next thing I want to do is, so that's basically scaling up and scaling down. Okay, so that's an exercise we did. Okay. Automatic redistribution of tasks. So what I'm going to do is I want to stop the worker node 2. So the Docker machine stop. We're going to just stop the Docker machine. So it's kind of simulating a particular node goes down or something like that. Okay. So we go to terminal node here too. So here Docker Yeah, before, yeah, so you can actually, make this node to be removed from the swarm, or you can actually stop the Docker machine. So, we are actually simulating this Docker node, just kind of, experience a power outage or something like that. So, Docker machine stop, and this one is the swarm worker 2, swarm worker 2. Okay, so the tasks that are running on this node will be redistributed. Okay, so if you take a look at the visualizer, we're going to actually see, okay, so Docker worker 2, soon it will, yeah, so now, the tasks actually, yeah, so this is actually the out of the swarm, and then the task actually redistributed to other nodes. Okay. All right, so that is basically, and then if you restart the swarm worker 2, so we're gonna say the Docker machine start swarm worker 2 again. Okay, then we are going to see the worker node 2 is again participating in the swarm. Okay, so still being started. For your exercise, I want you to scale up and down the service you have created in exercise 4 and add another worker node and remove it, and observe the tasks automatically reallocated among the running nodes. Okay, all right, so let's just verify that is the case. And if I refresh the page, yes, sooner or later it will redistribute the task. Maybe this is actually 4, maybe it doesn't do that. So let's actually make this one like we can just scale up to 7 or something like that. Now, okay, so all right, so that's the end of the presentation. Okay, so thanks for participating.